Okay, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the design public hearing. This is this evening for the Route 27 over Route 9 bridge replacement, including interchange improvements in Natick, Massachusetts. My name is Lawrence Cash, and I am the Mass DOT project manager from the Massachusetts Department of Transportation, Highway Division, Boston office. Before getting into the project presentation, we will cover a few slides on the hearing, recording, and diversity and civil rights. I would like to introduce one of our producers, Chris Clem.
Thanks, Larry. Welcome again, everyone. My name is Chris Clem, and I am one of the MassDOT producers tonight, alongside Joe Yu, who will help facilitate the question and answer session. Before we begin the formal presentation, I'm just going to take a quick minute to review some housekeeping items and some Zoom controls. On the bottom left of your screen, you can find your audio settings. The chat function is disabled for this hearing, so please direct your written questions and comments to the Q&A box. You can submit questions at any time. We will answer them towards the end of the presentation during the Q&A session. During Q&A, you will also be able to use the raise hand function. We will give you access to unmute your microphones. If you need to call into this meeting, you can dial 1-301-715-8592, webinar ID 856-4391-8652. You can use the view settings on the upper right-hand corner of your screen to adjust the view settings to your preference. You can select the CC icon to view live closed captioning generated by Zoom. And finally, if you are experiencing any technical difficulties during the presentation, you can dial the number on the top right of this screen. That is 888-799-9666. This virtual public meeting will be recorded. The Massachusetts Department of Transportation may choose to retain and distribute the video, images, audio, and/or chat transcripts. All parts of this hearing are considered public record. By continuing attendance with this virtual public hearing, you are consenting to participate in a recorded event. If you are not comfortable being recorded, please turn your camera off and keep your microphone muted, or you may choose to excuse yourself from the meeting. Your microphone and webcam are automatically disabled upon entering the hearing. The hearing will be open to questions and answers at the end of the formal presentation. All questions and comments are welcome and appreciated. However, we do request that you refrain from any disrespectful comments. And finally, please take a quick minute to respond to our survey at the end of the hearing. Your feedback is very important to us. On the screen is the notice of MassDOT's policy on diversity and civil rights. If you'd like to learn more about our policies and how they impact our public meetings and hearings, please contact the Office of Diversity and Civil Rights or visit their website online. And with that, I will give it back to you. Thanks, Larry.
Thank you, Chris. I will begin by presenting the members of the hearing panel for this evening's presentation. Ann Sullivan and Laurie Shattuck from Mass DOT's District 3 office. We have Melissa O'Day from Mass DOT's State Right-of-Way section. We have Ashish Patel with Mass DOT's Design Build section. We have Joe Johnson and Chris Howard from GPI representing Mass DOT's Design Consultant team. We have also with us this evening, we have Jamie Erickson, Town Administrator from the town of Natick. And we have Joe Yu and Chris Clem, Mass DOT's producers for the presentation. And finally, we have Melissa Lupo, who is the stenographer taking a verbatim transcript of tonight's hearing. The design public hearing has been advertised in several ways. The hearing notice has been advertised in the Metro West Daily News on June 1st and June 8th, 2023, and also in the Natick Report on May 18th, and the ad is still currently posted in the report. The notification of this design public hearing was posted on Mass DOT's website. Finally, the town of Natick has helped coordinate the public hearing by posting the project information on their Facebook page and the city website and Twitter account. A copy of this notice is in the handout and will be attached in the final hearing transcript. If you would like to retrieve the handout for this project electronically, please use the QR code shown on the upper right corner of the screen and also shown on the public hearing flyer, which has been posted. You will find documentation which may be useful for understanding the project and submitting formal comments in response to this presentation. Now, for tonight's presentation, the agenda will include the following. We'll talk about the project location, the project history, the project needs and goals, the design alternatives considered, the preferred alternative and the proposed design. And we'll talk about right-of-way for the project and the environmental and construction impacts. And then the next steps for the project. And then we'll open the hearing for some question and answer. This will be your opportunity to ask questions, provide feedback, or look for clarification on any of the presentation materials. Your feedback is important to us, and we certainly encourage and appreciate your participation. This graphic represents an aerial view of the project limits along both Route 27 and Route 9 at the interchange. Along Route 27, you will see the southerly limit is at Bacon Street at the bottom of the photo. The project continues north over Route 9 and ends at the northerly limit in the vicinity of Rutledge Road, located at the top of the aerial photo. Along Route 9, the westerly project limit is the vicinity of the bridge carrying the Cochituate Rail Trail over Route 9, as shown on the left side of the aerial image. The easterly project limit along Route 9 in the vicinity of the MathWorks property, located at the right side of the aerial. Route 9 carries approximately 65,000 vehicles per day, has 2 travel lanes in each direction, and has a posted speed limit of 50 miles per hour. Route 27 carries approximately 23,000 vehicles per day, has 1 travel lane in each direction, and has posted speed limit of 30 miles per hour. In terms of the project history and timeline, the project was initiated by the state and the town back in 2010 and 2011, as the bridge was in extremely poor condition. And the interchange from a traffic and geometric standpoint is functionally obsolete. Since this time, both Mass DOT and the town have been aggressively looking for available construction funding. In 2017, the initial 25% design was completed and a 25% design public hearing was held. In June 2019, a public informational meeting was held to discuss new alternatives for the project and also to gather feedback from the public regarding the design alternatives. In June 2021, an additional public informational meeting was held to update the public on the project and to provide more detailed information. In May of 2022, the 25% design for the modified divergent diamond was submitted to Mass DOT for review, and tonight we are having the official design public hearing, which is a project milestone that signifies that the project will advance toward design build procurement. Now, as stated, we are currently finishing the 25% design stage. After the public hearing, we will be advancing this project to a design build procurement process, which will begin in the late summer of 2023 with an expected request for proposal advertising in early 2024. We estimate the total design build construction cost will be approximately $81 million, which will come from federal aid funding primarily, with the Federal Highway Administration funding 80% and Mass DOT funding the remaining 20%. This project must be programmed in the statewide transportation improvement program in the appropriate federal fiscal year in order for Mass DOT to solicit bids for construction. The total federal participating cost for this project does not include any right-of-way acquisition costs. The construction notice to proceed is anticipated for the summer of 2024, and the construction duration is expected to last approximately 3 to 4 construction seasons. Please note, this project, as I said, is design build project on the 2024 Transportation Improvement Program. As a result, the design schedule is accelerated, and this has led to some of you having already been contacted by Mass DOT's right-of-way division about property impacts prior to this meeting. We hope that we can provide the appropriate clarification and details about the project tonight, and would welcome the opportunity for more individual meetings to specifically discuss your property impacts. Please utilize the project email address to request such a meeting or contact the Mass DOT right-of-way agent that you have been working with. Now we will revisit why this project was originally initiated. This project was initiated first and foremost due to the need to replace the existing bridge, which was constructed nearly a century ago in 1931. The bridge shown in red on this photo is currently classified as structurally deficient, which repairs have been made in recent years. The structure is still in need of full replacement. The bridge also provides limited vertical clearance along Route 9, restricted to 13 feet 8 inches, and has a center pier in the middle of Route 9 that is exposed to salt and ice every winter, leading to the additional deterioration and subsequent repairs. Knowing that the bridge requires full replacement and will impact the whole interchange due to the required stage construction to maintain existing traffic, and of course would be costly and a lengthy endeavor, Mass DOT wanted to seize the opportunity to not only replace the bridge structure, but also address the other known deficiencies associated with the interchange. As shown on this slide, the interchange has been noted as a high crash location between 2013 and 2015 and averaged more than 2 crashes per week throughout this time period. These crashes are due to multiple issues, including the stop-controlled ramps, the short weaving distance under the bridge between the ramps, the lack of adequate acceleration and deceleration lanes, and a history of flooding at the location during significant storm events. All of these issues will be addressed as part of this project to improve the safety of the interchange. While Route 9 is certainly a vital corridor for thousands of commuters every day, we understand that it is also functions as a barrier between the residential communities in the south and the destinations, including schools, restaurants, shopping, and other businesses located to the north along North Main Street. Currently, there are no bicycle facilities throughout the interchange. There is also no continuous accessible sidewalk for pedestrians along the segment of Route 27. This results in a barrier for both pedestrians and cyclists and a location where there are few options to safely cross Route 9. This project will improve mobility for all users of the interchange. As mentioned previously, on average, over 80,000 vehicles travel through this location every day, leading to congestion and delays. A more efficient design is needed for better process this demand while safely accommodating all the mobility needs of the community. Here we have a drone video taken in June 2018 showing typical congestion in the area during the afternoon peak hour. There is heavy traffic along Route 27 southbound, and the Route 9 on-ramps are backed up as motorists wait for acceptable gaps to pull into the Route 9 traffic. If you look at the ramp toward the bottom of the screen, you'll even see a black vehicle making an illegal left turn, which highlights the frustration and unsafe driver decisions that have been in this area experiencing heavy congestion. So the question is, how do we attempt to solve these issues we've just identified? Starting at the beginning, the town initiated the design back in 2010, 2011 with another design consultant. Then in June 2017, the design you see here on the right was presented to the public. This design proposed to remove the ramps in the northwest and southwest quadrants, the upper left and lower right portions of the interchange respectively. Traffic signals were then proposed at the ramp locations along the Route 27 to handle not only through traffic along 27, but also left turns to and from Route 9. The design included sidewalks along both sides of the road and road bicycle lanes. On-road bicycle lanes. The public rejected this design at the 2017 hearing due to various reasons. These included lengthy crossing distances at the intersections for pedestrians and bicyclists, as well as concerns about complex traffic signal phasing, which could result in additional delay, particularly for the left turn movements to access Route 9. Given the public response at the meeting, MassDOT paused the project. The word cloud on the screen was developed using the transcript from that public meeting. For those of you who may be unfamiliar with word clouds, essentially, the more often a word was used during the meeting, the larger and more central the word appears in the cloud. This word cloud lines up with our view of the concerns brought up during the meeting and visually summarizes those comments into more easily digestible format, for which would be the important guiding principles for this project listed on the right. Focusing on people and safety of all those traveling through this area, we sought a solution to address the concerns of the public while being sensitive to the context and needs of the community. At this point, I will turn the presentation over now to our design consultant at GPI to discuss the options evaluated, as well as the proposed interchange reconfiguration we wish to advance to construction.
Thanks, Larry. My name is Joe Johnson, and I work with GPI. We are the design consultant working on behalf of MassDOT on this project. I will be reviewing some of the options considered, the two alternatives that were presented to the public in 2019, and then I will pass it on to my colleague to provide more information about the specific improvements we are proposing. As shown on this slide, several alternatives were evaluated to satisfy the new direction of the project. These included a single point urban interchange, variations of a partial cloverleaf interchange, a signalized circle interchange, and a teardrop interchange. During evaluation of these alternatives, these options were dismissed for either excessive impacts to private property or the operations did not adequately address the guiding principles identified for the project. However, through the alternative analysis process, two preferred concepts emerged. Those consisted of a dual roundabout option, as shown on the left, and a modified diverging diamond configuration, as shown on the right. To orient you on this slide, Route 27 is shown as running horizontally on the screen, while Route 9 is oriented top to bottom. The Route 927 Exchange Plaza is in the top left corner of each image, while Lakeshore Road is shown in the bottom left corner of each image. The dual roundabout concept implemented a multi-lane roundabout at each of the interfaces with the Route 9 on and off ramps. This option eliminated the need for traffic signals, and as a benefit of roundabouts in general, would promote traffic calming while reducing the severity of crashes. The dual roundabout concept also incorporated improved pedestrian and bicycle facilities throughout the project limits. This was accomplished using a combination of shared use paths and sidewalks. However, one of the challenges of this location is the need for multiple vehicle travel lanes approaching and departing from the two roundabouts. To safely cross pedestrians and cyclists at multi-lane roundabouts, a modified traffic signal would be needed at each crosswalk. So although roundabouts generally operate under yield control without the need for signals, many of the approaches would require signalization to ensure the safety of pedestrians and cyclists at the multi-lane crossings. The second concept was a modified diverging diamond. This option tailored a diverging diamond interchange, also referred to as a DDI, to fit within the project site while remaining context sensitive to the Natick community. While there are many aspects of this DDI that we will explore in the coming slides, one of the most striking features is the three-bridge design that allows for construction of the new bridges entirely offline. This means that vehicle traffic can continue to use the existing bridge while the first new bridge is built adjacent to it. This results in an overall shorter construction duration and reduces impacts to the traveling public. DDIs are a type of interchange configuration new to Massachusetts, but have been constructed throughout the world. The Federal Highway Administration promotes DDIs given their safety benefits and the ability to process left turn movements without the need to cross opposing traffic. The modified diverging diamond concept provides shared use path and sidewalk facilities throughout the project limits. All multi-lane crossings are fully signalized to safely accommodate pedestrians and bicyclists. 3 independent bridge structures are proposed and include an entirely exclusive pedestrian and bicycle bridge separated from vehicular traffic. This provides a safe, high-comfort pedestrian bike facility over Route 9, where no such facility exists for these users today. Diverging diamonds have been used for decades globally. According to the Washington State Department of Transportation, the first DDI in the United States was built in 2009, with over 150 now operational in the United States. There are multiple more DDIs currently in construction within the US. These interchanges are controlled by traffic signals on either side of the major roadway, where the opposing through traffic will temporarily cross over to the opposing side of the road. By crossing the lanes of traffic, the left turn movements can be processed without conflict, similar to how a channelized right turn is made. Also, since the interchange is controlled by 2 signals, pedestrians can safely cross to either side of Route 27. Both alternatives, the roundabouts and the modified DDI, were presented at a public meeting held at the Wilson Middle School in June 2019. After the formal presentation, we broke into smaller groups and the attendees were encouraged to provide their input via a comment form that listed the various goals and needs of the project. These categories included overall safety, pedestrian and bicycle accommodations, traffic operations, accommodations of U-turns, neighborhood connectivity, as well as others. Also, the previous 2017 design was presented alongside the dual roundabout and modified diverging diamond concepts to provide an array of options. Participants were asked to place red, yellow, and green stickers on each category and for each design alternative. There was also space provided for handwritten comments. A red sticker indicated a negative reaction, yellow, a neutral reaction, and green, a positive reaction. This information was then gathered and evaluated to help determine the path forward for the project. As can be seen on this slide, the results were clear, and the modified diverging diamond was the preferred option as voiced by the public. It was also the preferred option from MassDOT's perspective, so it was the chosen option to move forward into design. As part of that process, we received a lot of great feedback on the designs, such as concerns about access to and from Lakeshore Road. We used all of this feedback to further refine the design of the DDI. At this point, we are going to take a deeper dive into our modified diverging diamond and diverging diamonds in general. On the left side of this slide is a more traditional diamond interchange that most of you are likely familiar with. There are long straight ramps that approach the crossing road and forms a diamond shape. One of the challenges with diamond interchanges and other similar configurations, including the one presented in 2017, is the need to process left-turning vehicles to and from the major roadway. This often requires more complex traffic signal phasing, which translates to longer cycle lengths. Additionally, in order to provide safe crossings for pedestrians and bicyclists, phasing must be added to the signals to allow time for those crossing as well. This isn't to say that diamond interchanges are ineffective or unsafe. It is just a different type of interchange that has its own operational characteristics. So now let's talk about the characteristics of a traditional DDI as shown on the right. This interchange type uses the same fundamental footprint of a traditional diamond, but is referred to as a double crossover interchange, since it temporarily crosses traffic to the opposite side of the road in the immediate vicinity of the interchange. I just want to repeat that again in case this is new to you or the first time you're hearing it. A DDI is referred to as a double crossover interchange, since it temporarily crosses traffic to the opposite side of the road in the immediate vicinity of the interchange. So now we'll take a closer look at this. In this enlarged aerial image, the two crossing locations are identified with blue circles. This is where traffic signals will be installed. If we consider the northbound traffic in this example, the northbound traffic will cross over to the opposite side of the road at the southerly traffic signal. And then that northbound traffic will cross over again to at the north side of the interchange using the second traffic signal. So you might ask, what is the point of this? Well, the advantage of using the DDI configuration has to do with the manner in which left turns are processed. On the left is an enlarged aerial image of the traditional diamond interchange. The orange arrows show how left turns onto the ramps would be made at this interchange. On the right side, the same left turn movements are also shown in orange. As you can see with the DDI, by temporarily crossing the traffic over at the interchange, the left turns will not come into conflict with oncoming traffic. For the traditional diamond interchange, the oncoming traffic is shown in the dashed orange arrows. By eliminating this conflict, the DDI can provide greater safety and dramatically reduce the complexity of the signal phasing at the interchange. So to summarize, the DDI provides channelized right and left turns to the major roadway as shown in orange on the aerial image. As previously mentioned, this interchange in its current configuration has been prone to crashes. According to Federal Highway, total crashes were reduced by 46%, and left turn crashes were eliminated completely by implementing a divergent diamond relative to a traditional diamond interchange. So the DDI at this interchange, rather than using a more conventional configuration, will assist in reducing crashes and improving safety. When it comes to pedestrians and bicyclists, the DDI allows for crossings to occur at the same time as through traffic, eliminating the the need for additional phases. These pedestrian crossings will occur without any conflicts with traveling vehicles. So now we'll talk about the difference between a traditional DDI and the modified DDI that we are proposing in Natick. As shown on this slide, we overlaid an example of a more traditional DDI to show the impacts of a standard configuration and how that wouldn't work at this location. These yellow circles show how the ramp alignments would severely impact adjacent properties and businesses. These impacts are obviously not reasonable nor feasible. Many DDIs have been built near large, sprawling interchanges over major interstates, where this type of ramp geometry can be easily accommodated. However, when it comes to our location in Natick, we needed something much more context sensitive. At this point, I'd like to transition the presentation to my colleague, Chris, to further explain the details of the Natick modified DDI.
Thanks, Joe. Hello, everyone. My name is Chris Howard with GPI, and I am part of the design consultant team for MassDOT. So here we have a rendering of the proposed modified DDI with Route 27 shown left to right and Route 9 shown vertically. But what exactly does the modified term mean in this sense? Well, essentially, the ramps and overall geometry have been modified to fit within the available right-of-way as much as possible while still adhering to federal highway design guidelines. This provides a smaller footprint that is much more context sensitive to the Natick community. Instead of a more typical diamond shape as Joe described earlier, we maintained the basic shape of the existing ramps, but with many improvements to maintain safe and appropriate low speeds on the ramps, while eliminating the stop conditions that exist today. Appropriate acceleration and deceleration lanes have also been proposed along Route 9 to eliminate both the dangerous weaving that exists today and to allow vehicles to achieve appropriate speeds before entering or exiting Route 9. Before we get too far into the details of this design, we wanted to say that we fully acknowledge an aerial view looking down at a DDI can appear quite complex. However, the driving experience is far simpler than you may assume. So let's jump right into a video showing what it would be like to experience driving through this new DDI. So this video will start traveling along Route 9, heading west away from Boston. We will then take the off-ramp up to Route 27 and continue south toward Natick Center. So as mentioned, we begin by driving along Route 9 west, traveling in the deceleration lane, and approaching the off-ramp. As we turn onto the ramp, off to your left, you'll see the westbound bus stop and the new shared use path connecting up to Route 27 through the infield area. On our right is the 927 Exchange Plaza. We will then stay in the left lane so that we can continue south on Route 27. As we approach the top of the ramp, we encounter the first simple two-phase signal and continue our journey onto Route 27. Off to the right, you'll see a new bus stop and the shared use path continuing through the center of the interchange with plenty of separation from vehicular traffic. As we cross over the new bridge, you'll also be able to see the new signature exclusive bike bridge and pedestrian bridge in the middle. We then continue, and you can notice the easy U-turn provided as we pass by the left turn onto Route 9 East. We now approach the second simple two-phase signal and cross back over to the right side of the roadway and can continue to Natick Center. And just to really demonstrate the experience, we wanted to show one more video that runs along Route 27 as if we were coming down from the Pike and heading south again towards Natick Center. So here we are at the 927 Exchange driveway on the left, and we will continue driving south toward Route 9. You'll notice the shared use path network on the right and on the left side of the screen as well. This provides safe, separated accommodations for pedestrians and bikes. Next, we will be coming up to the intersection that would take you to Lakeshore Road. A new queuing area can be seen on the left to allow for easier and safer access from Route 27 to and from Lakeshore. We're now passing the on-ramp to Route 9 West, and just beyond that, one of the new bus stops as we approach the northern traffic signal. We continue straight through the intersection, passing by the shared use path, up to the new Tide Arch Bridge. And we would continue on just as we have seen in the previous video. We hope those videos gave you a feel for what driving through this interchange will be like. It was also important to note that this project has carefully taken into consideration the other major projects that have been or currently are being constructed in the immediate area. Tying into the Route 27 project at both the northern and southern limits, blending the project designs together, and minimizing additional work required where these projects interface. We also intend to bring direct connectivity to the Constituent Rail Trail shown on the left side of the screen via shared use paths and extending improvements that were made along Route 9 as part of that rail trail project as well. So now let's look at the other routes you may want to take. The graphic shows a top-down view of the proposed modified DDI with Route 27 shown horizontally and Route 9 shown vertically. First up, traveling north on Route 27 toward the schools, starting on the right side of the screen and moving left, you can easily take a right onto Route 9 East or continue through the first two-phase signal over the new bridge and then bear left onto Route 9 West. Or you can cross back over and continue traveling north along Route 27 toward Rutledge Road. Now, what about heading southbound on Route 27? The area is oriented the same as the previous slide, and we've seen some of these movements in the videos we just watched. Traffic flow is practically mirrored in comparison to the northbound movements. Vehicles would begin on the left side of the screen and head south into the interchange. If you want to go on Route 9 West, you would take the first right onto the ramp or continue through the light and proceed over the bridge. You'll then be able to turn left onto Route 9 East, or you could continue through the second two-phase signal, staying on 27 and crossing back to the traditional side of the roadway. As part of the 2019 meeting, it was noted that a lot of vehicles along Route 9 use these interchanges to reverse direction, essentially performing a U-turn. By making these movements as simple as possible, it minimizes the impact to more local traffic on Route 27. In this instance, vehicles traveling either east or west on 9 can take the off-ramp, head over their respective bridge, and turn back onto Route 9 reversing direction. This is a much more efficient movement than if this were a traditional diamond, and just adds to the benefits the DDI brings to this location. We hope we have provided some insight on how to drive through this interchange, but we certainly want to highlight the truly multimodal advantages this design brings as well. Providing safe, high comfort facilities for pedestrians, bicycles, and transit users continues to be exceptionally important to MassDOT, and this modified DDI design really exceeds on that front as well. So let's start with Route 27, highlighting the shared use path that provides a continuous route from Bacon Street on the right up to the interchange over the exclusive pedestrian and bike bridge, and then providing options to continue along either side of Route 27 up to the 927 exchange signal. Bikes can then cross at this location if needed and continue toward Rutledge and the schools in the north. And here we have rotated the image 90 degrees to now show Route 9 horizontally. The project provides a shared use path along the entirety of Route 9 East, connecting the Constituent Rail Trail at the western limits all the way to Linden Street and the MathWorks campus in the east. Currently, the Metro West Regional Transit Authority, also called the MWRTA, has two routes that run through the project limits. One along Route 27, picking up and unloading passengers in the 927 Exchange Plaza due to there being no formal stops along Route 27 in this area. And the second route runs along Route 9 and stops on either side of the interchange, depending on which direction. Currently, there is no connectivity between these two routes, but we aim to change that by providing formal stops along Route 27 and using the shared use paths and sidewalks to provide a link between both these routes. So one more rotation back to showing Route 27 horizontally, with the north on the left side of the screen and Natick Center in the south off to the right. This image shows the entirety of the available connections for pedestrians and bicyclists throughout the project. Dashed blue lines showing the shared use paths and dashed yellow lines representing the additional sidewalk network. This project intends to deliver a network of connectivity for pedestrians, bikes, and transit users allowing them to get to wherever their destination may be safely and efficiently. You may also recall one of the issues noted by Larry earlier in the presentation was that the existing bridge provides low clearance over Route 9. All 3 new bridges will be constructed approximately 4 feet higher than the existing bridge to align with federal highway guidance for clearance on Route 9 and allowing for elimination of the pier that sits in the middle of Route 9 today. This will provide extended durability for the new bridges, keeping vital structural components further from the road salt during those winter months. The guardrail separating Route 9 will also be replaced with concrete barrier, extending the improvements that were installed as part of the Cochituate Rail Trail project to the west. Roadway lighting will also be enhanced to provide safer accommodations for all users as well. With the flooding issues on Route 9 during heavy storms, many drainage improvements are also being incorporated. While these improvements will capture this water more effectively, we are aware that there are already issues concerning erosion up near Running Brook Circle, where the stormwater is discharged. To reduce the rush of water to this location, infiltration basins are also being proposed inside the ramps, shown here in yellow, to allow for this stormwater to recharge back into the ground more naturally. With these basins, despite all of the improvements being made, there will actually be lower flow rates of stormwater near the outfall at Running Brook Circle. The design has gone through several iterations to get to this stage, and we continue to make refinements. It was noted in the comments received at the 2019 public meeting that access to Lakeshore Road as part of the DDI was still a concern. The area was revised to provide a 2-stage approach for accessing Lakeshore Road more safely. The design has had several outside reviewers during the design process, including MassDOT and other consultants considered DDI experts in the industry. Mitigating impacts to private property continues to be extremely important. While eliminating every impact is not feasible with such a transformative project, we continue to refine the design wherever possible to minimize them. This project's design occurred during the height of COVID, in which traffic was very low compared to pre- and post-COVID times. New traffic patterns have been evaluated to ensure the design is still appropriate and adequate. Extensive utility and geotechnical investigations have also been performed to minimize unexpected impacts to utilities or other structures during construction, which would otherwise typically lead to additional delays. And now let's take one more look at the design via a bird's eye view of the entire project. So we begin positioned above Route 9, looking east toward Boston. The 3-bridge design is centered, and as we rotate around, the interconnected shared use path and sidewalk network becomes even more visible. We end up over Route 27, looking north, and could see the first crossover leading up to the new bridges. The 927 Exchange Plaza can be seen off to the right as we continue over Route 9 and through the second crossover, leading up to the improved connection to Lakeshore Road. As we pan back out, the entire project comes into view. The modified diverging diamond interchange carrying Route 27 over Route 9. At this point, I'd like to hand it off to Melissa to discuss the right-of-way aspects of the project.
Thank you, Chris. Good evening. My name is Melissa O'Day, and I represent the Right-of-Way Bureau of the Massachusetts Department of Transportation Highway Division. The Right-of-Way Bureau is responsible for acquiring all the necessary rights in private and public lands for the design, construction, and implementation of this project. Affected property owners have been contacted by personnel from the Right-of-Way Bureau representing Massachusetts Department of Transportation Highway Division. The procedures used must comply with state and federal regulations and the acquisition governing the acquisition process. Affected property owners' rights are protected under our Massachusetts general laws, primarily Chapter 79. If a project is receiving federal funds, the property owner's rights are further defined under Title III, of the Real Properties Act of 1970 as amended.
All right, thank you, Melissa. Okay, what are the environmental, cultural resource, and community impacts? So regarding environmental impacts, Mass DOT will be coordinating with MEPA office to determine reviews that may be required. We also will be filing a categorical exclusion checklist. There will be no work within or alteration of jurisdictional wetland resource areas. The stormwater and runoff management during construction. The installation of construction phase erosion and sedimentation control measures will be installed during construction, and installation of post-construction stormwater control measures. As Chris mentioned in the previous slides, we were showing the detention basins. What is the construction approach? So for temporary traffic measures, the bridges will be built offline to minimize impacts to existing traffic. You can see offline, like in the highlighted yellow section there. That's a new structure being built while the existing structure maintains traffic. The design build contractor will present intended traffic management plans to the public before construction. Construction impacts: access to be maintained during construction. Existing pedestrian facilities will be maintained. Access to businesses, access to Lakeshore Road, and access to existing traffic during peak travel times. Temporary traffic measures. Pedestrian detours may be necessary. Nighttime rolling roadblocks could be necessary for erection of beams, or even closures on the Route 9 section, just as I said, as a rolling roadblock, just for the installation of anything overhead on the bridge structures. No planned road closure on Route 27, as traffic will be maintained. Now for the project delivery, as we said, we plan on using a design build procurement. So design build combines the design and construction services into a single contract, authorized for department use under Mass General Law 149A, subsection 14 to 21. This allows the contractor and designer to work together on all phases of the project. This promotes innovation, expedites project delivery and completion, and best value design build procurement. Now let's talk a little about this. Project awarded based on the highest overall value, considering both quality and cost. Phase 1 of the procurement, shortlist best qualified teams as determined by response to request for qualifications. Phase 2, submission of technical and price proposal and response to request for proposals, the RFP. During phase 2, alternate concept process is utilized to allow the incorporation of innovation and flexibility into the technical proposals. RFP will include performance specification requirements for base technical concept, wherein the proposals can propose an ATC which meets or exceeds these requirements. So that summarizes the design build process. Our next steps will finalize the 25% and special provisions documents for design build procurement. In the fall of 2023, we'll put out the request for qualifications issued to the bidders. This would be done in the fall of 2023. March 2024, request for proposals issued to bidders is considered the project advertisement and commitment to the project. In the summer, fall of 2024, we anticipate notice to proceed issued to the selected Mass DOT contractor. In the fall of 2024, at that time, the Mass DOT contractor would begin public outreach to the public for various meetings. How will we keep you informed? There are several ways to reach out to Mass DOT going forward on this project. You can use the project website, which can be found on the design public hearing flyer and also on the screen. You can email comments to the email address listed on the slide to Mass DOT major projects at dot.state.ma.us. Or you can submit and mail formal written comments through the chief engineer to the address shown with attention to the major project section and the project file number 605313. Or you can visit the Mass DOT Design Public Hearing website listed, or simply scan the QR code showed on the screen, or the code shown on the public hearing flyer. A copy of the handout is provided on the website, and formal comments can be mailed into Mass DOT with the form on the last page of the handout. Comments received within 10 business days will be included in the official hearing transcript. Now at this time, I will hand it over to Chris Clem, who will assist in the opening of the hearing for questions and answers.
Thanks, Larry. I'll actually take it over. Hi, folks. I'm Joe Yu, one of the co-producers for tonight's hearing. So before we open up the questions and comments to the general public, let me explain the hearing procedure. As stated previously, this is an opportunity for everyone to provide their input regarding this project. And since the plans are not yet complete, we may not be able to answer all your questions or respond to all your comments at this time. We would like to open the hearing first to any elected public officials. So any federal, state, or local elected public officials, please raise your hand. And it'd be great if you can also write your name and position in the Q&A box. So we'll give it a moment. While we're waiting for any public officials to speak up, I'd like to go over the two main ways that folks can use the Zoom functions to interact with our panelists tonight. First is the raised hand icon at the bottom of your screen. You can click on that to be put on queue, eventually be unmuted for verbalizing your questions or comments. You can also write your comments and questions using the Q&A button. That'll prompt a questions and answer box. It seems like we have a good amount of questions coming in right now. So those are the two main ways for you to interact with our panelists. Please state your name before your question And since we have a lot of attendees tonight, please try to share only one question or comment at a time, limited to 2 minutes to allow equitable participation tonight. For those who are joining us via phone, please dial *9 and the moderator will call out the last 4 digits of your phone number and unmute your audio when it's your turn. As we mentioned earlier in tonight's hearing, there will be a survey that pops up when you exit our Zoom webinar. Please take a few minutes to complete the survey after the meeting to let us know how your experience was with this virtual meeting. It doesn't appear that we have any public officials wanting to speak. I don't see any names popping up in the questions and answers box. So I guess we will start with our first round of attendees. We have A. Richard and Jill Miller. Folks, you can unmute your microphones now. Richard and Jill. Hello. Okay, we'll come back to you. We have Paul Feldman. Paul?
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Appreciate the opportunity. I represent businesses along Route 9 traveling eastbound into the city, Bernardi Honda, Metro West Subaru, and Bernardi Volvo. And we'll have, and we're going to want to engage with the right-of-way people with regard to specific issues associated with the proposed takings that we've received. And I won't occupy the public's time tonight with regard to those really property-specific issues. What I wanted to ask some questions about are the design program that you described. And maybe if you could put the slide up that shows the modified DDI. One question that we have that's particularly important to Bernardi Volvo is that it appears that with this design, a customer exiting the Volvo dealership, which is right by the ramp on the, you're zooming in on it, so it's on the ramp where you are traveling eastbound right there and you go off to the right, will have no choice but to get onto the exit ramp of Route 9 and travel south on Route 27, because it looks like you're changing the curbing. So, and there's I thought I saw even a bus stop that's right up there on Route 9, so that they're not going to be able to continue east on Route 9. Is that correct, or are we misunderstanding the design?
I can start, Joe. I believe right there on the bottom of the screen, I think it's just showing a little bit of a deceleration lane onto the ramp. I'm not quite sure where the driveway is located there. It looks a little bit further down on the page, but that's what I'm seeing.
Yeah, Larry, I can chime in. That configuration is actually going to be quite similar to what exists today at the Volvo dealership there, where there will just be striping for that exit for the off ramp, but it will not be curbing, so that access to Route 9 eastbound will be provided. They'll just have to pull across the decel lane, which is a similar situation that exists today.
I appreciate that. So you guys have studied that driveway, which is right there, just off the picture, and you're satisfied that a vehicle will be able to pull out, make a right and go eastbound, and not be forced to, they'll have enough opportunity not to be forced into the deacceleration lane and then be forced to go up to Route 27 southbound.
That's correct. Yep.
That's correct.
Thank you, folks. We have a question from Richard Sidney, who is actually a Natick Select Board member, asking Duncan's is towards Rutledge Road, North Pleasant is to the south of Route 9, between Route 9 and Bacon. There were some questions regarding Richard about who is responsible for the cost of right-of-way purchases and or easements. I don't know if Larry or Melissa would like to go.
Well, the state is responsible for right-of-way on this project.
Yep. Great. Thank you. There's a question from Bill McDowell asking, is there a possibility that the design build contractor could successfully propose an alternative technical concept that would not incorporate the DDI traffic pattern?
That is going to be discussed with the design build section before that goes out through the procurement process. But in general, anything that deviates from the base concept has to be submitted, and then it would have to be acceptable to Mass DOT as a substitute to that base concept. That's usually what happens in the design build. And I mean, if anyone else has a different part of that answer, that's fine. They can.
Yeah, I mean, if I can just chime in, basically, I mean, the base technical concept has to be equal or better with the alternate. And there are certain things will be prescriptive, so there'll be no option to change those. But there are other things that will be left up to the design build entity, which is made up of designers as well as the contractor working together, and they can come up with some innovative ideas because these are like expert contractors doing similar projects, so they have experience, so they can come up with some good ideas and better alternatives, and those will be evaluated by the expert teams from the Mass DOT. And then once it is approved, will be implemented in the by the design build contractor.
Thank you. We have a question from Rosie asking if will signal timing consider the signal at Bacon Street?
Yeah, I can answer that one. We will have coordinated signals between Bacon Street through the interchange up to the Plaza 9 and 27. Those 4 signals will be coordinated and working together. So we will be just optimizing the timings at Bacon Street. We won't be making any changes to the lanes. I know that intersection is currently in construction. We'll just be working with optimizing the timings and have those timings work with this whole corridor now, the network of signals.
Thank you. I just want to go back to Select Board member Richard Sidney's concern. My apologies. I was unaware that he was referencing an initial question by Connie asking, will North Pleasant Street still connect to Route 27 or become a dead end since it currently impedes flow? Also, will the 9 and 27 shopping center allow entry on the north side as it does currently by the Dunkin' Donuts?
Yeah, Joe, if I could share my screen real quick, I can address those two questions. Hopefully that'll
For
help.
sure, Joe. You definitely can.
Whoops. Okay, can you see my screen? Okay. All right,
Yes.
so here's the interchange as a whole. I just thought it'd be easier to show in one large plan here. So the question is relative to North Pleasant Street, which is right here. Here's Bacon Street at the bottom. And I believe the question is whether or not this would become a dead end street. And the answer is no. We're looking to maintain that connection as it exists today, that there will continue to be access here. The different, I guess just to point out some of the changes that will be occurring in this location is we'll now have two southbound travel lanes that will continue from the interchange all the way down to Bacon Street. We'll continue to have the one northbound lane. So we would expect less queuing to the Bacon Street interchange, and obviously the interchange as a whole to have less queuing. So hopefully that will addresses the question at North Plain Street or North Pleasant, sorry. Now, if we take a look up at the Dunkin' Donuts, this is the signal at the 927 Exchange Plaza. We are not looking to make any modifications to the access to the Dunkin' Donuts, which is right here. That will still occur through the site. If I'm not understanding that, please feel free to chime in and let me know, but we're not intending to make any changes there.
Thank you, Joe. Going back to some of our raised hands, I think Richard Miller has hopefully fixed his audio issue. Richard, you can unmute yourself. Okay, we'll come back to you. We have Connie, who has raised their hand. Connie, you can unmute yourself. Okay, no worries. This does happen. We will come back to you, Connie. We have Simon. Simon, you can try to unmute yourself.
Hello.
Hello.
Currently, I'm the operator of the gas station located right next to Dunkin' Donuts. And from the pictures that I see, my understanding is that the entrance on the Route 27 side would be altered to and from the station. It looks like there'll be a raised barrier of some sort on the corner, exiting and entering into the station on the corner of Rutledge Road. There's some concerns about entering and exiting from that station as the pumps are aligned with Route 27 and need an entrance and exit on either side of the islands. And there's some concern from my end of fuel tank deliveries that occur on that corner as well. It allows the fuel tanker to enter the property and align itself with the underground storage tanks of fuel. And kind of an important exit entrance for the station to operate as a station, service station for gasoline. Primarily on that corner, the fuel deliveries all enter and exit from that corner. Is there going to be anything on that corner that prevents entering and exiting more than is allowed right now?
Simon, prior to the town project, was that driveway opening, was that all one large opening, the way that it was just constructed?
Yeah, so that stayed open the way it has been open. The difference now prior is that the sidewalk became a little bit slanted. Before there was no sidewalk, it was pavement straight to the road. After the project, it actually went into the station more. So right now, the current concrete sidewalk kind of has an angle to it, where it was more parallel with 27. So the corner has changed a little bit, where it was pushed back further from 27. But the opening has always been from Rutledge, where the grass knoll is on the property, all the way to where the sign is on the property. That has always been completely open.
Okay, and I think we did get something in writing from you through the DOT email, and
That's right.
yeah, requesting the same, and if at all possible, if that middle part could be, brought down like closer to flush, so that there's I think right now, yeah, we might be showing like a grass strip in the middle and it's raised there. It is possible that we can look at the design to see if we can we don't necessarily have to use the grass as a buffer. We could use it as a different type of material. Sometimes we separate sidewalk or shared use path with like brick before it reaches the roadway, something like that. Something that might be able to get down closer to grade, but we can take a look at that.
Sounds good. Thank you, Larry. Moving on, we have a raised hand from Timothy. Timothy, feel free to unmute yourself. No worries, we can get back to you, Timothy.
Do we want to just kind of go over how to unmute for some of the folks who seem to be having
Yes.
problems?
Yes, it does seem like there are some technical issues from the audience side. So when you have your hand raised, I see a list of folks who have their hand raised. When it's your turn, I press the allow to talk button, which will prompt on your screen, the attendee screen, that you have been requested to unmute yourself. So when you click on the microphone icon at the bottom of your screen, you can toggle your microphone on and off. Hopefully that can better allow folks to participate verbally. So moving forward, we have a raised hand from Jake. Jake, feel free to unmute yourself.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Hi, this is Jake Carmody from Vanessa and Associates. We're working with the Bernardi, Honda, and Volvo folks that are abutters to Route 9. And I just had a question about some of the decision making for the roundabout versus diverging diamond, and maybe I missed it. I missed the first few minutes of the meeting, but I was curious if could you elaborate on, like, was there an intersection control evaluation performed, or how are these, what were the parameters that were used to compare the two alternatives?
Yeah, so I mean, Jake, we have a full functional design report, and so that it really dives into that. And the roundabout does provide some nice traffic numbers, but it's not. I mean, really, the main difference has to do with getting both the bicycles and pedestrians across the interchange, because with the roundabout coming off of Route 9, being higher speed in crossing the ramps, the vehicles, it's kind of like a ball in motion. Like, they don't really like to slow down. They like to keep moving as long as they can. So, we find that it's for these busier type of interchanges, we're finding that having a full signalized intersection would make it much safer for both bikes and peds to cross. I mean, that's one of the reasons there. I'll let Joe talk a little about some of the traffic regarding the two.
Yeah, thanks, Larry. Yeah, we also saw at the roundabouts, there was more queuing that we were seeing along the off ramps, particularly from Route 9. And those types of queues were not being experienced by the DDI. So that was another factor that played into it, apart from just facilitating the ped and bike movements on multi-lane roundabouts. Had single lane roundabouts worked at this location, I think it would have been a different story. But the fact that they were multi-lane does present some challenges and some safety concerns, just because they are a little bit more challenging than single lane roundabouts. So certainly the multi-lane roundabouts were a factor. The traffic operations were another factor. The DDI operated better in general than the dual roundabouts. The fact that we could stage the project with offline construction with the DDI, with the offline bridges was also a big advantage over the roundabouts. So, all in all, we felt very comfortable with the DDI, and we feel it's the best solution for the interchange.
Thank you, Jake, for your question, and thank you, panelists. In the chat, we have several comments asking about the construction timeframe. So I think for efficiency's sake, I'm just going to combine all of them. When is construction expected to start? And when does the project team expect the total duration of construction impacts?
Yeah, so the construction duration, we're working on construction duration, but we definitely see the core of construction being in the year 25, 26, and 27. And the notice to proceed for construction, our goal is to get it in the late summer, early fall of 2024. But the contractor, will have some upfront work and coordination during that period. So like I said, the years 2025, 26, and 27 would be where the core of construction would take place. And it's likely to run into 28, probably at least into that spring if they couldn't accomplish what they wanted in that 3-year full season of construction.
Thanks, Larry.
I think that answers most of that.
I think so. Thanks, Larry. We have a person on the phone. The last digits are 414. Feel free to unmute yourself.
Hi, my name is Jim Carney, and I am the owner of Bernardi Auto Group. So I'm the owner of the property for the Honda store and the Volvo store. And I'm also speaking my neighbor in the middle, Frank Annenberger, who owns the Subaru store. So our 3 properties are definitely impacted by this as you're eastbound on Route 9, especially if you're entering our properties is not such a problem, but exiting the properties under the current conditions is a little bit risky. Under these proposed conditions, I don't think it changes a lot, but the difference between the rotary option and your other option that you seem to be in favor of, the customers exiting our properties, certainly the Volvo property has the biggest impact, and then Subaru has a severe impact, and then Honda is somewhat of a lesser impact. But they all have to get across that first lane of traffic and weave into the eastbound traffic on Route 9 in order to continue eastbound and get through that traffic that's exiting on Route 27 on the off ramp there. One of my thoughts was if there was a rotary condition at the top of that exit ramp, it would be very easy and safe for them to merge with the off-bound traffic onto that ramp, go 180 degrees around the rotary and get back onto Route 9 eastbound. If they are more or less forced into, because of traffic conditions, into that ramp or onto that ramp, it becomes, based on what I'm seeing here tonight, it becomes very difficult for them to reverse their direction on Route 27, get back, going north on 27, and then ultimately getting onto a ramp that takes them east on Route 9. And I think that's a big safety concern. It would make a lot of customers feel a lot easier about getting out of those three facilities. Do you have any comments on that?
Well, I'm not seeing it just yet. I'll have to look at the two alternatives, but I would say that the way that you're describing it is that your existing condition throws you right out into the travel lane at high speeds. So if there is more of a decel lane there, it would, even though that you might want to get out and go straight eastbound, there would definitely be less vehicles in that lane rather than jumping straight into the travel lane. But again, I'd have to see the plans and the existing condition, and it sounds like your office wants to meet anyways with the right-of-way agent. So we've already been contacted. So.
Thank you.
I don't know if you have anything more to add, Joe.
Yeah, I could add more. Chris, if I could share my screen again. Or Joe, thanks. I'll just bring that plan up. It'll be a little easier to explain. Okay, so we're talking about all the dealerships essentially over here to the west of the interchange. So just looking at the existing condition, hopefully you can see the Google image here. So right now, there's just a wide shoulder for much of the stretch, and there is a short substandard decel lane right here to get off. And here's the Volvo dealership here. And so one of the objectives of the project was to provide safer deceleration lane length. So we want to extend this lane further because you're coming off a road that's posted 50 to a 25-mile-per-hour curve. So there's really not enough space here to come to, there's not enough distance to come safely to that condition, reduction in speed. So you'll see in the proposed scenario here that we have extended that decel lane. So now it's further. And so that provides a more comfortable decel for folks exiting Route 9 eastbound to get off. Now, I understand the concern is, pulling out of this driveway, for instance, or any of these. It was a large shoulder, just a wide shoulder. Now we're striping a lane. I would say that right now, whether or not people utilize this shoulder for decel, that may or may not happen today, even though it's striped to be very short. My guess is that folks may enter that lane prematurely, knowing that it's very short. But another thing that I guess to consider is as someone pulls out from this driveway, for instance, you actually have a lane to travel in to merge into Route 9. There will be, obviously, vehicles will now be slowing down sooner, but, I think in general, we're hoping to improve the safety along Route 9 and the decel to get off And our hope is that by providing this lane, when you pull out, you'll actually have a lane to travel in rather than a shoulder to accelerate. You obviously will need to wait for gaps to pull out like any driveway on Route 9. But our hope is that you'll be able to pull out and make the maneuver that you want to make to get onto the main line. Now, I understand the comment about a roundabout. If we had a roundabout here, someone here could get off, and hopefully you can see my little hand pointing, and come through here and travel through a roundabout and get back on. I understand what you're saying there. To make that type of maneuver in this configuration, it is possible, but you would need to be familiar where basically you come out, you take the left, you'd come here, pull that U-turn, and then come back down and get on. So it is physically possible, but I understand it's not as convenient as having the roundabout. But I think, compared to the existing condition here, where you have that driveway in close proximity, it's not much different for the Volvo in terms of getting out and trying to get onto the main line, choosing an acceptable gap, and hopefully with that longer lane, folks will actually be pulled over and traveling at a slower speed by the time they get to this driveway, rather than someone pulling off very quickly right here where someone might be trying to pull out. So by having a longer decel lane, hopefully that will improve that situation.
Plus, Joe, the Gore area is all open too, which
Correct.
is the same as the existing. So if they traveled, even if they got to that far, they can still go through the Gore to get into the travel lane. But I would say in this condition here that exiting those driveways is going to act more like what I would call like an auxiliary lane, where you have some of the vehicles coming out of the driveway that are accelerating, and then they merge left, and then you have the vehicles slowing down to get into the lane to get out of the off this roadway and onto 27. So it almost seems to be acting more like an auxiliary lane, and that's really what they're designed for those type of movements off of the main line.
Great. Thank you, Larry, and thank you, Joe. We have a question from an anonymous attendee. We'll get back to the raised hands shortly. Asking about, I guess, the principles of design build. So the question reads, I've never heard of a project completed in this manner. The purpose of having a separation between the designer and the builder is to prevent a conflict of interest and have checks and balances. How will this be accomplished with the designer and builder being related and having the same for-profit interest?
Okay, I would like attempt to answer this. I mean, I don't know if I can support the statement that, there's no public project done in this manner. I mean, a lot of millions of dollars of, worth projects are being done by Massachusetts DOT, and it is approved by the, Massachusetts general law. So, that itself says that, it would not be a concern. Otherwise, this method of procurement will not be there. On top of that, most of the state DOTs across the United States is doing that, and federal government is using that. And the checks of balance, yes, I understand the design team is procured with the contractor, but this goes through the same phases of the design approval processes like any other design bid build projects. So in other words, in every step of the way, there'll be submittals that will be reviewed by the experts on the Massachusetts DOT team, as well as the PDC, which is the GPI, will be also on board at that phase to look these design submittals against the original design concept and the intention. On top of that, there will be peer reviewed by the other consultants similarly as independent reviewers. So all these things will make sure that we are getting what is, initially planned for, equal or better. So I believe, those concerns has been taken care of through the process of design build procurement over the years. And we do not foresee any, difficulty addressing the issue of, conflict of interest between the design build phases of the design and its approval and implementation through construction.
Yeah, usually these contractors, they would pair up with a design firm that both parties are well established and they're all pre-qualified.
Thank you both. We have a question from an anonymous attendee. We were told by the right-of-way bureau that the telephone poles on North Main will be moved further away from the streets towards the homes, and we were concerned about the apparent utility impact on the property value, as well as the ability to put our fence back post-construction. We are on the southeast corner of the project. Can you address this?
I can probably speak to this one, Larry, if you like.
Sure.
Yeah, so I'm familiar with the property in question. Just so you know, yes, the poles in that location will be moved closer to the property. However, they still will be outside of the existing fence location, and the way the design is proposed, while that fence will need to be removed during construction, it can be placed back in its existing location post-construction. So the intent is to not actually have to move that fence.
Thank you. We have a raised hand from Timothy. Timothy.
Hi, thank you.
Hello.
So my question is, I'm a Lakeshore resident. My understanding is when you come out to the end of Lakeshore Road, where you would be coming to 27, to the right towards Route 9 that's a one-way that would be going northbound, correct? So you'd have to make a left coming out of Lakeshore Road.
Yeah, that would be correct.
Okay.
Up to kind of the extension of North Main Street. I don't know if Joe, if you can show that'd be helpful. Maybe Joe can talk through it a little bit better.
Okay, and then the other question in regards to the kind of that same intersection there, will the merging on ramps towards Route 9, are there going to be stop signs at the end of those, or is it going to be like a yielding merge with like a flowing traffic, so not to try and stop and back up as you're getting onto Route 9? And my concern obviously is that Valvoline that's at the corner there of Route 9 West, the entrance, yes, yeah, that one, the entrance is actually from Route 9. So my concern is either they change the entrance and try and have to do something coming from Lakeshore Road, or the impact that it might actually have if it is a complete moving merge to get onto Route 9, the potential for accidents of people trying to get into that driveway with a merging on-ramp.
Okay, so we can maybe start with the question on Lakeshore. I can go over how the access is going to work there. So here's Lakeshore Road here. As you mentioned, if you're coming out of Lakeshore, you will have to take a left here. And then you would proceed over here to a stop sign where you can either take a right to get on Route 27 southbound, or access Route 9 westbound here, or get to Route 9 eastbound over there by heading on southbound. So you can either take the right here or go through to access Route 27 northbound. So it'd be a two-stage. As you come here, you take the right only, or go through considering one direction, just the southbound 27. Then you get to the second to the median here and the refuge in the middle here, and then just consider the northbound traffic to take your left to continue north. Regarding the Valvoline, let's see. So here's that driveway you're mentioning. Yeah, right now, that's a tough location because it is very close to the bridge. It is a tough condition in the existing condition because it does come up very quickly after the bridge. The the best way for someone to get to Valvoline, if you're heading Route 9 westbound, would be to get off prior to making this little maneuver here, and to get off and to continue up Route 27 here and take this turn here so that you could access it from the ramp. That would be the best way to access that site, because it is so close to the bridge itself, and it's just, it comes up very quickly once you get to the bridge. So that would be the recommended way if you're on the Route 9 westbound main line, to actually get off earlier, come up and take this left here and then come in that way, because it is so close to the bridge. But you also had a question about, I think here, I may be wrong, but I think this ramp, as you come on Route 9 westbound from Route 27 southbound, you want to get on Route 9 west, you would yield to these motorists that are coming up and getting on from Route 9 northbound that want to get on the Route 9 westbound. This movement would yield to this movement here, taking that left turn here. And then there is no yield, or, this is just an acceleration lane. If you're going to get onto Route 9 westbound, part of the issue with today is, there's very little acceleration lane. So we're actually providing a legitimate standard acceleration lane so that folks will come on and they'll accelerate before merging into the main line. And that will help prevent the backups that we see today that are up here and that were occurring over here, where some of these ramps getting on were like under stop control. And it was very difficult, obviously, to pull out onto Route 9 main line, where you have very little acceleration length and you're essentially going from a stop condition to 50 miles per hour. And so we're looking to improve that by providing proper acceleration and taper lengths so that you can merge back into the main line. So hopefully those answers your questions.
Thank you, Joe. We have a raised hand from Richard and Jill Miller. Folks can try to unmute yourselves.
Can you hear us?
Yes.
Wonderful. We apologize for earlier problems.
No worries.
I'm Dick Miller, also A. Richard Miller officially, and I have worked in past years very well with Mass DOT, both on Natick town committees and as executive director of the Lake Pachyshuit Watershed Association. And my wife Jill and I were spark plugs to start the Pachyshuit Rail Trail project. I've worked on it for some 20 years. So you've been helpful on all of those. We appreciate it. And we also live on Lakeshore Road. Lakeshore Road, as you know, but I want everyone to know, only has the exit at its east end. It is sealed off from Route 9 at its west end, and I think it would be a disaster if that ever changed. It's a regular route for pedestrians and bicyclists on the way to the rail trail. But for cars, it would be a disaster. It would be an attractive alternate route that the street isn't capable of handling. I have about 5 items. I'd like to list them all, and then we can take them as you like. But I'd like to get them all out on the table quick while I can. Firstly, I'd like to know what percent of the Lakeshore Road residents were aware of this meeting. I expect you did a good job, but I'd like to know. Second item, this has been very informative. Will it be available to the public, both online and as a download? The entire meeting. Recording. And thirdly, I mentioned the connection between Lakeshore Road and the Pachyshuit Rail Trail. which is very attractive for many bicyclists and pedestrians. I'd like to point out that perhaps the best stand of poison ivy in all of Natick is along Route 9, just west of the end of Lakeshore Road, between Lakeshore Road and the entrance ramp to the rail trail. I hope that doesn't have to wait 4 years to get cleared. There's a very narrow sidewalk there at this time, and pedestrians have to be on it. And it's difficult not to get into the poison ivy. And so that holds all year round, it's a problem. When and if you clear it out, from there it's all downhill on a brief, steep slope into the Lake Cochise, whose water Natick drinks. So I hope you will pull it rather than see which pesticide tastes best. And I think you can do a good job of that sooner. In terms of the traffic and the new plan for traffic, I appreciate all that's been done. I don't think I yet appreciate all the details of the design, but we'll be looking at it. And my immediate questions are, I mentioned water pollution on that one item, but this intersection also drains in the same direction. So that's a general caution against herbicides and the like. In terms of air pollution, the traffic jams now in that area and the accelerations, people panicking to get up to speed in time as they get onto Route 9, result in quite a bit of air pollution. I'd like to see a comparison of what the new design will do compared to the old on that issue. And I'd also like to see a little more detail. You just went over it and I'll be absorbing it some. Every direction for people coming to Lakeshore Road and people going in those 4 directions from Lakeshore Road. How will the new trip compare to the old trip in terms of their extra accelerations, problems, solutions, and again, the air pollution they're creating in the change, maneuvering around. I think you addressed a lot of what I was looking for, but I could use some fill in on some of those details. I thank you very much. And I thank you for good past work for the lake, for the rail trail, and for Natick.
Thank you, Dick.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Larry, I believe Dick had some questions regarding the water quality and air pollution. I guess we can get back on that later, but his first question was regarding what percentage of Lakeshore Road residents were aware of this meeting. I believe, Larry, we provided flyers and the appropriate outreach for this hearing, correct? So
Yes, you know, all of that, you know, like I said, it was posted locally and through DOT, through the various online outlets, and also, you know, at, like I said, Metro West Daily, the Natick Report, and you know, as for how many attended or aware of it, you know, I mean, that I don't know. The hearing is recorded, so at some point, you know, the producers will let me know when that recording is available, and certainly we can post it on the project website, which is also located, that address is on the design public hearing flyer. So you can go directly to that link. And there was a poison ivy question. That's probably more to do with maintenance along Route 9, if it is near the sidewalk. And let's see, yeah, the water quality. So I think Chris had touched upon that, regarding the detention basins. And so they that has the ability to, the rainwater will settle in the basin, and before moving into the pipes, it'll attenuate the flow, and also settle out some of the pollutants before moving into the drainage system. Glad to hear that you like the DDI. And I don't know, anything else you want to add, Joe?
Larry, I'll just add that we are making a formal connection. I think it was mentioned from the end of Lakeshore Road to the rail trail there on the westbound side of Route 9. That there is a very narrow sidewalk that will be widened, I believe, to 8 feet. So we are looking to improve that, because we know that would be an important connection. And obviously on the eastbound side, we are connecting all the way up to the rail trail, so that, it's a more better connectivity between the interchange itself to the rail trail, which is obviously a very popular trail. Chris, I don't know if you want to talk to stormwater quality in general.
I think Larry kind of covered a lot of it. I mean, we were going to certainly comply with all the stormwater standards required, and just with all the improvements that we'll be making as part of this project, we would expect the stormwater pollutant issues to be reduced.
Thank you, guys. We have a raised hand from David. David, I'm gonna allow you to unmute yourself. We'll come back to you, David. We have a hand raised from Paul. Paul, feel free to unmute yourself.
Thank you. How many times has a DDI been built in Massachusetts? Do you have another example somewhere in the Commonwealth?
Not in the Commonwealth. I believe that this one, for this type of interchange, would be the first.
Thank you. Have a hand raised from JP. JP, feel free to unmute yourself.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I represent the owners of Sunnyside Plaza, which is on the westbound side, just after the entrance from 27. It looks like the Jiffy Lube entrance remains open in the latest rendering I see online that you guys presented tonight, but the entrance directly adjacent to that into Sunnyside Plaza appears to have greenery for the first time and be closed. I don't understand how you differentiate between the two, because they're so close to each other, and why that would be the case. I'm hoping somebody can explain that. I understand the need to give people time to turn into the properties, and you don't want to conflict with the oncoming traffic from 27 onto Route 9. But why would one of the two entrances be closed and not both? Or why aren't you showing a shared entrance, considering they're doing eminent domain, probably to close that entrance? It doesn't make a lot of sense, and it seems like a hardship on 915 Worcester. Can you please explain?
Joe, do we have that, the plan?
Yeah, I'm gonna let Chris speak to this. I just am pulling up the right-of-way plans here to confirm something.
Do you have the rendered plan though, Joe?
Yes, I do. All right, sorry about that. Here we go.
Okay, so yes, I understand the confusion, and this is an error actually in our rendering that we will fix. The intent is not to close off that entrance. In our latest design plans, which I'm sure Joe is also confirming, that entrance is still open. I believe this was just a inaccurately colored area of the project, unfortunately.
Where
Yes.
is that, Chris?
Kind of, Joe, can you kind of,
Right
yeah,
here.
right there.
Yes.
So
Oh,
you can see the line work of the opening is still there, but it was incorrectly hatched green. But we will fix that. In the latest design plans, it is not being closed off.
Yep, I just confirmed on the plans that is a mistake here. So thank you for pointing that out and bringing that up.
All right.
Thank you, panelists. We'll come back to our raised hands. We have some questions in the Q&A box. Gary has a question. Has the backup that typically occurs at the set of lights at the Route 27 Bacon Street intersection been addressed as part of this project?
So I can speak a little bit about Bacon Street. I know that intersection is currently under construction. I don't know where that stands exactly. I know that they are providing 2 southbound lanes, and previously that was only 1. So there will be improvements made as part of that project based on the modeling that we've done, which includes this signal with the interchange. We did continue to see some southbound queuing along approaching Bacon Street, but that was not impacting the interchange. So having these 2 through lanes at Bacon Street does help to dramatically reduce the queuing that was happening when it was a 1-lane approach. So yes, we will. A lot of this traffic issue here down at Bacon Street will be addressed by that other project. And based on our simulation and modeling, we see that the queuing southbound will not extend into the interchange, causing the issues like it does today. Or yeah.
Thanks, Joe. We have a couple questions from Stephanie regarding flooding. There's 2 locations that Stephanie points out, which is Route 9 from MathWorks to Oak Street, as well as the excessive flooding that she notices on Linden Street.
Linden Street, that is not a dead end from what I. Yeah, can you just zoom in there?
Yeah,
Right
we're
near
not
MathWorks,
closing
yeah,
it now.
right there. Yeah, so Linden Street's still gonna be open, correct? Joe? Chris?
That is correct, Larry.
Yep.
Okay.
And I think speaking to the question about drainage along, let me just see what. was it regarding drainage along Route 9? Certainly we're greatly improving the drainage along Route 9 itself. And Chris, I don't know if you want to speak to that.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, the Oak Street intersection is beyond our project limits. So we are addressing the issues within our project limits along Route 9. It would certainly have to be up to another project to I think handle issues at Oak Street.
Yeah, we are definitely aware of the flooding issues that occur out here at the interchange, which we will address as part of this project. But yeah, Oak Street is outside of our limits, unfortunately.
I think, gents, that she meant the Linden Street entrance to Route 9. Is the answer the same, that we're going to be providing stormwater, management to the maximum extent practicable at this location, or is there anything specific that the project aims to accomplish at this location?
Again, we will be providing drainage improvements throughout the corridor. But however, I mean, I would understand if Linden Street were being closed off, and maybe there was a misunderstanding that there would be drainage issues, but we are not planning to close off Linden Street, and so the drainage should continue to be able to flow as it does today.
Great, thank you. We have a question from an anonymous attendee asking how long the nighttime work is expected to take. Concerns about the nearby homes and the noise from construction.
Who was that, Joe? One more time.
This attendee has some questions about the noise with construction, and asking how long nighttime work is expected to take.
Yeah, I mean, nighttime work is only used as necessary. We'll have to review like what we're going to be putting in terms of the allowable work hours, but in general, we try to keep the standard work day, being like I think it's around like 7 to 3 or maybe a little earlier, and then 3:30 in that range. But I know that when, depending on the volume of the roadway, there might be required nighttime work, like as I was saying about the erecting of beams, and maybe related to the bridge over Route 9, there might be some night work there, because that being like the least amount of traffic during that time. Sometimes even if there's trench work in a really difficult location, and we might have to have some special requests for nighttime work. So we do our best to try to keep it to a minimum, but in a big project like this, there would be some sporadic night work.
Yeah, and Larry, I'll just add, I guess, given that this will be a design build project, until the contractor's on board, we won't know exactly, how the project will be staged and whatnot. And we would fully expect, once a design build team is on board, that they will have further engagement with the public to be able to explain those details once they're known. So if it seems we're being a little vague in the construction methodology, it's because we don't know those details yet. And until the contractor is selected and they have come up with a staging plan, we won't know those details exactly.
Right. And, in work in general, like in front of anybody's house, I know like it's a little alarming when people hear like, oh, the project's going to be 3 to 4 years. It doesn't mean that somebody's going to be camped out in front of your house for that length of time. It just means that, the work that would be done, like if it's like sidewalk work or in curbing, or if there's a retaining wall, something like that, once they decide to work in that area, the contractors generally go right at it, and they try to get it done as soon as possible. So like the actual work in front of the house usually doesn't amount to all that much, and then they move down the road. You know, you can probably see examples of this on the current job that's out there now. You know, the contractor, they move around all over, so they're not always directly in front of your homes.
Thanks, Larry, and thanks, Joe. I just want to remind folks that we have approached 9 p.m. So first of all, thank you to our panelists and our attendees for sticking with us for the past 2 hours. We've gone through a lot of engaging discussions about the project design and the history. Before we move on with the remaining questions, I just wanted to remind folks that you can visit the project website utilizing the QR code shown on the screen. You can also look at MassDOT's upcoming events, including this one, using the second QR code on the screen. As mentioned by Larry earlier, that we will have a copy of the presentation and the recording once we process the video and the closed captioning files. If you have further questions and comments after tonight's hearing, you can definitely submit email comments to the major projects email address shown on the screen. You can also write in your comments addressed to the chief engineer at the MassDOT headquarters office in Boston. For both email correspondence and mail, please include the project file number for this project, which is 605313. So back to our questions. We have a raised hand from caller with the last 3 digits 414. You can unmute yourself.
Hi, thanks for taking this question. This is Jim Carney again from owner of the Bernardi Auto Dealerships. I was speaking earlier, or asked a question earlier about the rotary option to make the traffic a little safer, and the response to my question was that it's already sort of the same situation, and people exiting those dealerships, including the Subaru dealership, would actually have it easier now that the traffic is slowing down more to get on to 27. But in a way that makes it a lot harder, because now they have to wait for the traffic slowing down to get through the slow traffic and then accelerate immediately into the faster traffic. So I still have a question about the rotary option. And, you know, I appreciate what you're doing with the DDI option, and I understand what your thought process is behind that. But has there been any thinking or concepts or talk about integrating a rotary into that option, maybe south of the DDI where that terminates on 27, have it feed into a rotary where somebody can make an easy turnaround and get back again northbound on 27 and ultimately eastbound on Route 9, some sort of a hybrid concept. And I'm wondering if there's been any talk about that. Thanks.
I don't know. I mean, right away comes to mind when I hear that, but I think, Joe, you touched on it earlier about the roundabout, that we would probably be looking at a double lane roundabout. And that's where I think we started to shy away from that. You know, just a single lane roundabout, very, very effective and very safe. Still probably wouldn't really resolve the issues for pedestrian and bicycle crossing, not as safe as this one. I mean, we can go back to one of the slides, you know, to show you where the signals are and how that works when everybody's crossing. But you know, the roundabout, they do have benefits, particularly for safety, and there's no doubt about that. But in this case here, I think having both, you know, this design here and a roundabout integrated in there, that would be pretty difficult. I don't know, without affecting the properties that are already impacted there on the two corners.
Yeah, Larry, I'll say we did look at kind of having a hybrid configuration, which I think is being suggested, having a roundabout on just the south side of the interchange, and leaving the DDI kind of configuration on the north side. We did look at that from a operations perspective very early on, and to be honest, I would have to go back and look at it. It's very unique. I have seen it done. It's very interesting. But we did look at that, and I would have to get back in terms of the operations of how that worked. But it was something we had considered very early on. It wasn't something we drew up per se, but we did look at the numbers and run the analysis on that. And it was dismissed for one reason or another. But I just can't remember what the problem was the roundabout configuration. But I would have to get back to you on that.
So that signal on the right there, Joe, would have been a circle. Okay.
Yeah, the circle would kind of perform the crossover that's occurring with the signal, but we would accomplish the crossover using a roundabout. It would be a 2-lane roundabout, though.
Yeah, that is a concern with the 2 lanes.
Well, appreciate the thought process and trying to take in this attendees' suggestions. We have a couple more questions on the Q&A box. We have an anonymous attendee who asked the question earlier about the telephone poles. Will the placement of the support cable for the pole be where our fence is? They, as the project team, mentioned that the fence might have to be re-erected with the cable running over it, and they're not okay with that.
Yeah, we'd have to see the location. It's one of these where you probably want to talk to the right-of-way agent, and we can just get some clarification there. But we'll take note if we can get that property. Is the property listed there? I don't.
Larry, it is not listed there.
Okay. Yeah, reach out to the right-of-way agent and we can take a closer look at that. But I assume they're talking about the guy wire.
Right. We have a question from Josh asking, when will you identify project staging areas?
Well, I mean, similar to what Joe mentioned earlier, until we get the contractor on board and do in fact know exactly what they will be building, then at that point, as part of public outreach, they will go through brief presentations on how they plan to build the project. There will be public outreach as part of the project, as most design build projects do.
Thanks, Larry. Jill Miller has a question, or was curious about knowing whether native species will be prioritized in plantings for landscape design.
Well, I know landscaping will be commenting on the plants that are going into the project, and they've been actively involved, and they've met with the designer, the town, and Mass DOT maintenance, and certainly We do not like invasive species, and we generally on all of our contracts, wherever we see something like that, we do what we can to try to eradicate that. So that would be a question for landscaping, but I believe that they would be interested in having native species.
Yeah, agreed, Larry. Moving on, we have a question from an anonymous attendee asking regarding the widened sidewalks on Route 9, how far east and west will this be?
The widened sidewalks on Route 9, east and west.
I can share if you'd like, Larry.
Okay.
So as was mentioned on the south side of Route 9, we're gonna have a shared use path. And its westerly limit, you can see over here, might take a second to load up here. But this shared use path continues right up to the Cochituate Rail Trail. So it ties in here. And my understanding is that there's another MassDOT project that will continue a trail under the bridge here, which will we've been coordinating with that design. But this is where our project will take the shared use path. Across the street here, across Route 9, this was that widened sidewalk we mentioned earlier that connects from the end of Lakeshore here to the rail trail here. So there's a wider 8-foot wide sidewalk here. And then beyond where Lakeshore is here, this transitions to a cement concrete sidewalk. So the cement concrete sidewalk continues on the north towards the interchange. The shared use path continues on the south side towards the interchange. So as we continue to the east on Route 9, the sidewalk continues on the north side to our project limit, as well as the shared use path on the south side. At this point, the shared use path on the south side terminates right at Linden Street, where it ties into the MathWorks sidewalk here. So that's the limit of the sidewalk or the shared use path on the south side, and the sidewalk terminates on the north side here at our project limit. So it provides a, it's a continuous sidewalk through the project length, and it connects to the existing sidewalk on the north side.
Thanks, Joe. Question from Joshua Margolis asking how long will the Route 9 construction take? Will it be for the full duration of the project?
I mean, that's, it's a good question. I think it's, I mean, the core of that would be around the interchange part, right, Joe? And and then as you just described on the new sidewalks and shared use path, but as you get further away from the interchange, I mean, I would imagine that work is more minimal, and it would be really not impacted too much. It's really just right in the close vicinity of the bridges. That's where the heavier construction will be.
Mm-hmm.
But again, it's hard to take a guess at how the contractor will phase it, because there's a lot of different ways that that they could probably go about tackling the concepts here.
Mm-hmm.
Agreed. Thanks, Larry, and thanks, Joshua, for your question. Kevin Goldsmith, whose driveway is directly across from North Pleasant Street, has a question. He sees that the project is putting 2 lanes now in front of his house. As it is now, we compete with speeding traffic that doesn't stop coming off Route 9 East onto Route 27 South, and traffic coming out of North Pleasant Street. Now that the project is adding another lane for him to compete with, the question is, how are you going to control the traffic coming off Route 9 and accomplish a void in traffic for the neighborhood safety and getting in and out of their driveways.
So I
So
can,
you can go ahead, Joe, and take it, but I believe that the 2 lanes right on that southbound of North Main Street is, one of them is for like the left turn movement onto Bacon, right? So,
no, that's a
I would,
shared lane.
yeah, it's a shared lane, so it can do both. But
Mhm.
anybody that wants to take a left there, so, you know, there might be times where that is, that middle lane there is, there might be a little queue there, as approaching Bacon, so that might actually, you know, help with the opening, to get into, North Pleasant Street there. And see,
Yeah, Larry, I'll just, I'll chime in a little bit here on, I think the movement that's of concern is coming off the Route 9 eastbound ramp here, how that comes in right here, and the issue is coming down this way towards Bacon. Right now, this movement off of Route 9 eastbound is a yield control, but you can see the radius here is very, I would say, forgiving. You could, if there's no one coming southbound on Route 27, then a vehicle coming off the ramp can pretty easily just continue on southbound at a without coming to much of a, you know, without having to slow down much. And so what I just wanted to point out here is what we're looking to accomplish with this design is actually make that movement, we want to make that a little bit more abrupt so that that right turn, it is not a free flow move. I mean, first of all, this right turn lane will be signalized. It will be part of this traffic signal that is going to be installed here. So there will be times when this right turn will have a red indication. It will not be able to proceed. And that would be when the southbound through is going. Once the southbound through is they receive a red indication here, then this would have the green right. But again, this right turn would be coming more from either a stop condition or a slower speed, you know, more like 15-mile-per-hour turn or something like that, rather than maybe 25 if someone came through without, you know, having to yield to someone. So, so between having the signal at Bacon, which I know exists today, this will be a brand new signal, does not exist. So having a signal here will introduce gaps in the traffic stream so that driveways here in this vicinity, there will be more, I would say, organized gaps created by this traffic signal to help facilitate moves out of your driveways. Also, with the 2-lane approach coming down here, hopefully the queue is not blocking your driveway, which may be occurring currently. By adding the second lane, we expect to control the queuing so that typically you don't have those excessive queues. It may on occasion queue back, but we don't expect it to go to the interchange. So I think with the geometry of this ramp being revised to be more closer to, you know, a little bit tighter geometry here rather than a sweeping curve, that will help reduce speeds as well as it will be signalized. So there will be times when this movement actually, you know, will have a red indication is forced to stop and yield. So.
yeah, I was going to mention that too, Joe, that there would be some gaps created. So, and clearly you can see from that geometry right there that when the cars swing around and they, you know, they're going to have to, you know, it's coming, you know, not quite like a T, but, but, you know, pretty close to it. So the radius is really tightened up. So that'll definitely slow down the vehicles coming from that ramp.
Thanks, Larry, and thanks, Joe. Moving on, we have a question from Deborah Bryce. This is a follow-up question to the question about the Route 9 widened sidewalks. Will there be a fence or something from the bottom of Lakeshore to the rail trail entrance?
Yeah, I can speak to that one, Larry, if you'd like.
Okay.
Yeah, so this connection kind of that you see here in the dark gray, almost black, that'll be the paved area between Lakeshore and the Constituent Rail Trail. We are proposing as part of the design, essentially that same concrete barrier that exists in the middle of Route 9. We'll be proposing on the edge for that kind of dark section there to protect bicycles and pedestrians kind of connecting from Lakeshore to the rail trail. There'll be also a fence on the other side, as I believe one of the commenters noted, that it's a steep slope kind of down to the lake. So there'll be concrete barrier protecting people from Route 9, and then a fence protecting people from the slope on the other side.
Thanks, Chris. We have currently our final hand raised from Simon. Simon, you can unmute yourself.
Hello, Simon from the operator of the gas station located next to Dunkin' Donuts in 27-9 Exchange Plaza. And it was explained to me that there may be overhead cables and additional pole installed over the same driveway alongside the Route 27. Where currently there isn't any overhead on that side of the road. It's on the it's the side going towards Natick Center. It was also explained to me that there may be the need, because of cabling, overhead cabling being installed, the removal of the current sign placement further back into the property.
Joe, was that eliminated when we decided to keep the poles on the same side of the park? I believe that we're no longer making that crossing. Is that correct?
That is correct, Larry. Just it hasn't made it to the final design documents, but that is actively being revised. And yes, we are not anticipating needing to relocate to the gas station kind of side of the road in this location.
Right. Okay. And yeah, so you know, the reason is that that wooded area on the left of the photo here, you know, Mary Bunkle Park, Community Park, you know, being a protected land. So we basically got rid of all easements on the parkland. So as a result, we don't need to relocate the poles that were just placed under the active construction contract now. So we did have a field meeting where we were going to be crossing from that location, and as you described, Simon, however, we're finding right now that we no longer need to do that. So that would probably eliminate that concern that you have in that question.
Thanks, Simon. Thanks, Larry and Co. That's all for our raised hands and questions right now. It is 9:24, so we have been going at this hearing for quite some time. I don't know, Larry, if you want to close out since we don't have.
Yeah, that'd be
further
great,
questions.
Joe. Yes, you know, so closing out here, just like to thank everybody very much for attending this presentation this evening, and going forward, your comments and concerns will be taken into consideration for the design of this project. Please enjoy the rest of the evening, and I declare this hearing closed at this time. The time is 9:25 p.m.